Hi, my name is Marschner. Thank you for joining my poster presentation. Here I present work from a project in which I ask how the sense of agency, so the feeling of being in control of our actions and their effects in the environment, is constituted in joint action contexts. Research on the sense of agency mainly focuses on the question how it is that we usually experience ourselves as the author of our actions and their resulting effects in the environment, and is thus mainly interested in the experience of self-agency. However, the domain of joint actions calls for a reconsideration of this limited scope. We can already say a lot about the experience of individual action, but how does it feel to act together? Tackling this issue, a growing body of studies indeed points out that the sense of agency we experience during joint actions marks a distinctive kind of experience that has been termed the sense of joint agency. In this project, I aimed at contributing to this line of research by investigating what cues underlie the generation of this phenomena. Therefore, I draw on recent models of the sense of agency for individual action that converge on the view that the sense of agency relies on the integration of sensorimotor, perceptual, and cognitive cues. By assuming that the same principle also underlies the generation of joint agency, I hypothesized here that the sense of joint agency is marked by a specific weighting of these cues. In particular, when sensing joint rather than self-agency, people may rely strongly on perceptual cues and to a much weaker extent on sensorimotor cues when monitoring control. This is because sensorimotor cues that stem from the execution of motor commands are only privately available and thus limited when evaluating agency at the group level. On the other hand, cues that stem from the monitoring of the perceptual unfolding of the joint activity are publicly available and can thus be used to track control for both own and others' contributions. Now, in order to test this, we conducted the following experiment. Pairs of participants try to jointly reproduce the tempo of a short metronome tone sequence by tapping 4 times each, either in alternation or sequentially. To this, we aimed at evoking differences in the strengths of joint agency within participants, as previous research showed that the sense of joint agency is enhanced when coordination demands are high. Crucially, while tapping, participants heard tones that were either contingent on their taps or externally controlled by the computer, who just perfectly matched the timing of the model sequence. Participants' task was then to indicate whether the timing of the tones heard during tapping had been controlled by them or by the computer respectively. Additionally, participants rated their feelings of control over the timing of the sequence on a scale that ranged from shared to individual control. The beauty of this paradigm is that it allows to disentangle the influence of sensorimotor and perceptual cues on participants' agency judgments, which is illustrated in the figure on the right here. Drawing on this, the later reported statistical analysis of these cues can shed light on their effectiveness in informing participants' responses. First, analysis of the data revealed stronger feelings of shared as opposed to individual control over the timing of the sequence, which was found equally across the analyzed conditions. So participants indeed experienced joint rather than mere self-agency during the task, but this was not modulated by the height of coordination demands. Furthermore, we analyzed participants' sensitivity for discriminating between the two control modes and examined participants' bias to report one way or the other. There was no difference between tapping conditions with respect to participants' ability to discriminate joint from external control trials. Interestingly, however, in both conditions, participants showed a reliable bias to report joint rather than external control, which could be regarded as evidence for the involvement of cognitive expectations and motivational factors in the generation of the sense of joint agency. Of main interest for the purpose of the study was the analysis of perceptual and sensorimotor cues to agency in the task. Here we found that under both high and low coordination demands, participants evidently used both perceptual and sensorimotor cues to inform their agency judgments, pointing out the importance of both kinds of cues for the generation of a sense of joint agency. So we indeed found a strong reliance on perceptual cues when people sense joint agency, but nevertheless, people do not seem to discount sensorimotor cues, although they are exclusively tied to their individual contributions to the joint activity. In sum, the study points out that the sense of joint agency rests on both private sensorimotor cues and publicly available perceptual cues, and may be further influenced by cognitive expectations and motivational factors, which is in line with cue integration approaches. However, we didn't find evidence for specific weighting of agency cues as a function of the analyzed joint action contexts. Future studies could follow up on this by investigating whether the strong reliance on perceptual cues found here is indeed a hallmark of the sense of joint agency, and what other joint action contexts may indeed alter the weighting of different agency cues. Furthermore, as research on the sense of agency in joint action is just getting off the starting block, future studies have to tackle the question of how one could best measure the sense of joint agency. For example, by exploring potential implicit measures or by developing new techniques that capture the relational nature of this phenomenon. Last but not least, joint actions come in a broad variety, ranging from complementary over synchronous to mere turn-taking actions. A systematic account of how these different kinds of joint action differ with respect to agentive experiences is still missing. And with this, I'd like to close by thanking my supervisors and collaborators in this project and you for listening. Thank you.